All right, let's move on to Calamari Desert. So the thing with Calamari Desert is that there's no there's no jumps to miss. There's nothing to like block. Let's go back here. There's no ramps or jumps. Speed items play a pretty big factor because there's lots of sand areas to cut across. Um, so stars and shrooms are pretty good here. So you probably see some sandbagging here at the beginning. Although Dan and Jimbo are literally on top of each other. Yeah, Drew's. I think I don't know if he missed the start boost here, but so again, I'm just gonna focus on one player at a time. So I'm just gonna focus on Jimbo for now. Yeah, so actually, I think that's don't love that play here. Right there, he's like super on top of Dan. I think at this point I just cut my slide off, or I don't even know if I'm sliding this hard. Like I think I'm so focused on just trying to get an item here because of the important the benefits of getting speed items. Um, yeah, don't super love that play there. All right, so again, just focusing on Jim. Jim was kind of sitting duck there for Drew. Like he's like in the middle. Like if I probably so I see he corrects back left. If I'm Jim and I'm small, I usually try to get to the edges of the road. I'm trying to get to the right, probably here instead of correcting back left. Like I'm just trying to get out of Drew's way. I'm just like worse, just trying not to get squashed. um, or maybe did he see the shroom, the red come out? Let's see. I think that was maybe he was trying to get out of the way of the red. I don't think so. I think he's just. I don't see. He goes over to the right there, like he does, but it's almost too late. Like he corrects left there, and then he goes right, and then he's like, so like I would have expected him to get to the side earlier because that's where At this point, yeah. So let's see. So he's got a second chance. Drew's gonna pass him again. He kind of hops. Like the hop isn't gonna change anything. Like Drew's still gonna hit him with the hop. So I think for me, like I just drive into the sand. Like just get all the way to the right, get out of the way. The hops are pretty much like those have no effect. All right. Alright, picks up some items, but he sees Drew come out with the boo. So he's got to be careful here. He can get a star in second place. He can get trip. So the two items he's looking for are either trip shrooms, trip reds, or I guess or star. So three shrooms and star are probably the most effective for speed. Obviously, the trip reds you got to be careful because if Drew's play, if he sees any of those three items come out, maybe not shrooms, but star or red, like Jim's gonna like have to insta fire because Drew's gonna try to steal those probably. So, or he should be at least. So, what he gets a single banana. The other thing here, so just like we saw on Cupid Beach, there's actually a small chance when you're going left here, the game has a little bit of issue with people going left, where if you can actually sometimes drop back into like a lower position. So if he waits a little bit, if he waits until he's out into the sand a little bit, he can maybe sneak into like third place for like a few frames to get an item block. Let's see if that happens. No, it doesn't. Usually it happens when people are back up on the road, like near like the train track area. So if Dan was maybe more on the road, like if he had entered the sand a little bit later, Jim maybe would have had a few frame window to get into third place there. But yeah, so single banana, not a great pickup. He actually hits Dan with it there. So kind of a good play. I was gonna say like I probably wouldn't have dropped it there, but hits Dan with it. So I probably would have saved it for these item blocks, or just actually just saved it as a second blocker, so that if Dan, so actually it still may not be a great play because hitting Dan there doesn't cost Dan a ton of time. It maybe costs him in the sand's a little bit more penal, so he maybe 0.6 something seconds. It's not a whole lot. But if Dan or Beck pick up trip reds here, dropping that banana as a second blocker, like getting rid of that blocker, could end up being a mistake. So we'll see what happens. So let's see. He gets a banana bunch. So if Dan or Beck gets trip reds, he can try to like lay these out like and try to catch the reds in flight instead of taking out the whole bunch at once. But so that's a little bit lucky for him. And then Beck and Dan get shroomed. So not ends up being an okay. I mean, it ends up not costing him anything by tossing it. Not a toss away. He hits Dan with it, but I probably would have just held on to it as a blocker. So again, let's see. Does he get out? Yeah, he doesn't get hit by the blue, and so he kind of has some shells going back and forth. That was a good snipe by Drew. Like good. I don't want to jump too far ahead because I'll get to it in his replay. But Drew getting rid of the green before the blue gets home is the right play there. So, but yeah, Jim kind of dodging those those shells. He's dropping bananas here like on the straight. Don't really love that play. Like you can already see like in Beck's view, you can kind of clearly see those bananas. Like they're not really going to be a surprise to anyone. Like they're on like the inside line, but if I'm him, I'm probably holding them until either like if you're going to trap before these item blocks, do like after the dip, so that when you're coming over, it's a little bit more blind. Or even holding them because actually he might be in first place after all is said and done. So I probably would actually hold these here. Now Drew. Okay, so he's gonna get. So yeah, it's the second miss of that item block. You can see Drew going left. So if I'm in Jim's position here, like I'm just breaking the slide. He's already got the MT charged. I'm just going right. I'm going to the right I'm going for the right items just because I see Drew going inside left, and yeah, I don't know why he didn't go right there. So now he's in third. I don't know how many he has left. I think he has 2, and Beck's behind him with 3 reds. So that's why I don't love dropping those where he did, because it's not a great place to trap. There's actually a really strong place to trap here. It's between this upcoming set of item blocks and the train track area, that little left side area. In my opinion, it's like that's the best place to trap. But now he's sort of set weak traps, and now he's got trip reds behind him. So yeah, I don't love that play. So he actually, he drops both there. He drops 2. He ends up taking out 1. So he drops 1 there, 1 there. But yeah, he's not gonna be able to get this out, is he? Oh, he did. Okay, so all right, so yeah, that ends up working out okay. I think it's like the star there is like the perfect item. Like if he doesn't get a star, let's say if he got another shell, I guess a shell would work too. But yeah, like that star is like literally the perfect item for him there. It negates that red and it gets him the speed boost over the sand area. So like really really good pickup there. And he does a good job of getting that the item. He triggers that item quickly because if he waits on it, he's getting hit by that red. So pretty good awareness to actually get. He knows the reds are there. He knows Beck fired them. So it was pretty headsy play there to get that item pickup. I mean, he was lucky. He was lucky he got the star, but it was good that he fired it. He triggered it and fired it quickly enough there. So, all right. So, let's see. So again, I feel like he's making these. I don't love these aggressive lines just because he's in second place. He can pick up another star. And it's like the third item block that he's missed by being, I think, a little too aggressive on his line going inside. Yeah, generally when you're in first, you can kind of take the more aggressive inside line, or if you're far enough behind someone else. But generally, when you're behind someone within 2 seconds or so, you don't want to go for the most aggressive lines. You want to try, or at least want to look to see where the other person's going. And this is like the third item block in like a lap, or under 2 laps that he's missed by going too far inside. He's gonna try to track down Dan here. So again, you see this delay where the the effect of the star wears off before. I mean, the animation of the star wears off before the effect does. So he takes out Dan's green, but it's he doesn't get Dan. So, but it's within that little window there. So, actually, where does... Oh, so what's interesting here is, actually there's a little bit of a race here between Dan and Jimbo, and, oh, actually, you know what? So, wait, where does that other shell come from? Oh, Drew fires it. Okay, so, yeah, so Drew fires this shell. He picks it up here. So yeah, actually, it wouldn't have really mattered because Drew fires it before Dan really had a chance to pass Jimbo. So, if Dan could have gotten in front of Jimbo before that red was fired, he could have avoided it. But there's a slight race there. But yeah. So okay, so Jim, let's see does he pick up this item block? Kind of barely. He gets it, but. Pretty aggressive. So Beck fires off that red. And oh yeah, so that's kind of bad luck there. Jim basically got like the one item that he couldn't do anything about that red with. He's basically got to eat the red and just he has a little bit faster recovery with the shroom, but sort of bad luck there for Jim. So yeah, there's the red. So he gets the quick recovery. Basically all he could do. Oh, jeez, that was kind of sketchy. So he sees Beck kind of. I think he sees him coming in for those so Beck can kind of sideswipe him here and kind of take out Jim's items before he can get there and kind of surprise him. So I think that's kind of why he's off to the right there. But he almost misses him anyway. So yeah, VLC, what's going on? So he barely gets that. He does a good job of he's in a kind of he's sort of being pinched again like with this train and the item setup. So he does a good job of kind of backing off, not going super aggressive, just making sure he stays clear of the train. And then he gets another good pickup here with the triple shrooms. What is Abney? Why is he so far off to the right? Oh, interesting. He tries to avoid the train. Yeah. So again, I guess Jim gets. He probably didn't realize Abney was going to be so far out of the line there, but he ends up getting those trip shrooms in second, which is basically gets some. Beck's kind of trolling Jim here with these reds, and then gets the bolt cancel. So yeah, Jim keeps picking up shrooms, and Abney keeps picking up reds, which is like really nothing you can do. Just take the red, but. So yeah, Drew gets a bolt. Oh wow, that's a really bad play by Drew. We'll get to it, I guess. So Drew kind of does Jimbo a solid. He gives him. So basically, when you're in that spin out animation for the bolt, you're immune to shells. So yeah, Drew kind of with the spam bolt here. He also gives Dan a shock dodge. So that's a really bad bolt play. So anyway. Yeah, Andrew hits himself with his own shells. It's triple whammy. All right, so let's see. So yeah, actually, with Dan's shock dodge, Dan goes flying past Drew. So actually, he goes flying past Jim. Yeah, one thing he has to be careful about here is with Dan's star, if he's sliding in such a way where his angles take him into the tracks. He can actually get, or even if not even sliding, if he's just driving straight and Dan kind of hits him from the right side, it could send Jim off into the tracks. So I think, yeah, if I'm so back, Jim has a chance here to get way out right. So that's probably what I'm doing if I'm Jim, because getting it sent in the tracks here is like the biggest penalty in the game. Like there's really nothing you can do. You just have to, you literally have to drive back. So probably if I'm Jim, I am just literally driving way out to the right, and with just like basically taking away any chance that 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 Dan's gonna hit me into the tracks. So yeah, I don't love that slide angle. I feel like I just it works out. Dan doesn't hit him, but I mean that was kind of risky there. Yeah, it's basically locked in here. There's really nothing more that's gonna happen. Dan had the blocker and Beck's too far behind and Drew. So yeah, all right. Let's get back. Let's take a look at back here. Okay, so just gonna contrast here again with what Jim's doing. So Beck is out here. He's kind of just, he knows that he's in third place. He's going out to the right, and that's a when you're not in first, the risk of going inside is that the person in first usually goes inside. So Beck's it's a headsy play here. Staying out to the right. He gets rid of his slide and drives through the item straight, which is I like that. I like that approach. Basically maximizing the chance that you're gonna hit that unblock. But he hits the bomb. So yeah, there's another bomb here. Again, it's a little bit. There's really no excuse for hitting this bomb. This track is so wide open. The only thing that with this bomb, it's on that turn, so generally you're sliding, and Beck was already set up to the right. But yeah, I think this is just a little bit of inexperience from Beck, in 4-player with the bombs. But yeah, this bomb is not that hard to avoid. Luckily, he gets sort of what we saw with Dan on Cuba Troopa Beach. He gets a little bit of a fast fall here with where he hits. Actually, it's happened to Dan on LR too, I think, where he hits this bomb and while he's in the bomb tumble animation, Drew uses his bolt. So actually, the penalty of the bomb's negated slightly with Drew's bolt here. So actually, it wasn't. It wasn't as. He still got the the sideways flat spin tumble. Actually, killed all his. He killed all his momentum. So it was actually still a pretty. Not a great outcome for him there. Also, he has trip shrooms here, but he can't use them, so he's just basically have to sit on them. He can try to cycle through here, and try to get another 4th place item. But I'm trying to think decide what I would do. I probably would hold them because it's lap 1, and I'd probably just so the risk of not cycling through is of not cycling for other items and holding them and trying to use them across this sand area coming up after this crossing, is that if Drew and Jimbo can't get bolts, they can get boos to seal, but only Dan can get a bolt here. I guess the boos are actually a risk to these shrooms as well. But generally, you think the boos don't. People usually don't steal triple shrooms, even on Kalmar Desert. People would generally not steal triple shrooms or try to steal triple shrooms. They would try to steal bolts, reds that come up behind them, or stars. Drew gets the boo, and he steals Beck's shrooms. So yeah, unfortunate there for Beck, I think, because I wouldn't anticipate a boo, someone stealing my shrooms here. And what sucks for him as well is that Drew really was going after this, or it was, I think, maybe just spammy there, but But really, what sucks for Beck here is that so I think actually he sees. So I think he was gonna. I think he was gonna cycle. He was going to cycle. Like otherwise, you can get across that sand area with two shrooms, but I think he's probably trying to cycle. But what sucks now is that because, or maybe he was just trying to spam him off before Drew could steal him. But what sucks now is that he has to sit these out because there's this animation that keeps the item up in his inventory. He can't get, so it basically denies him those items. So kind of a terrible outcome for him there. Like that's sort of like the worst case scenario. Other than well, I guess yeah, he could have been bolted there too, which probably would have been slightly worse. But yeah, really nothing he could do there. So yeah, he's cycling again. He's just basically just trying to get something better. He could have done there is he could have taken sort of where if you watch where Dan goes. See how Dan's going hard inside left here with his golden shroom. Dan doesn't have a choice. Like he basically has to sit out item blocks with his golden shroom. So Beck could have also done the same thing. He could have just tried to cut with all three shrooms, cut around that first turn and skipped an item set. So what he's doing here is he that's one option. The other option is to cycle through these shrooms and just get another fourth place item. So if I were him, I'd probably do the same thing. I probably would just get these items. It's start of lap 2, and he's not that far behind first place. So okay, so he has trip reds here. Jimbo's in front with. So let's see. When did he? Yeah, actually, so. Yeah, I think I pull these. Yeah, I think he waits a little too long here. So we saw on Jim's rewatch that he's able to escape these reds basically by getting that star. Beck has him. He has him lined up here. He sees Jim with blockers, but he has this big like open area. There's a gap with the fence, like with the train fence, but the reds. Jimbo's before the fence. If he fires these reds here, if I'm Beck, I fire two reds like right here is what I fire these. Maybe he's thinking. I don't want to swap places with Jim before the item blocks and get fourth place items, but he's pretty far back. I don't think even if he hits him here, I think he still might be like right on top of him. So he could probably even hit him with 2. So because he has all 3, so I think if you fire 2, hits Jim, I think he's about 2 seconds or maybe behind him. So I think he could probably hit him with 2 shell. Like fire all 3, he hits 2. He fires 2. Takes out the blocker, hits Jim with the second one, and then as he's passing, hits him with another one. That's probably what I would try to attempt here. But he kind of waits, and so he fires one off there. But by the time it gets to Jim, it hits the start. And this third one's basically wasted. Like there's really nothing. There's really no point to it. Like there's nothing he can do with it. And then actually, it's interesting that he goes right here. I feel like he has enough. Like I think he has enough time to go left. Honestly, no, yeah, I guess it probably would have been about the same. Yeah. So yeah, Star's a good pickup here. Gets him through the sand area quickly. He's gonna get. He's really far behind here. Even with the like using the star early, he picks up another set of fourth place items. All right, so Drew, he throws his red and he's got reds behind him. So Drew's gonna take one for sure, at least one. So what Beck needs to do is, he does the right thing. He sees Drew fire. He saw Drew fire his red. He only needs to fire 1 red now at Drew. He doesn't have a blocker to worry about, so he doesn't waste any shrooms. Waste any reds. So he fires 1. Let's see. He passes Drew before he fires another one. So now this one's going to track after Dan, and it's going to get home because Dan's not far enough away. So he hits Dan, and then he fires a third at Jim. So actually pretty good. Yeah, very effective reds there. Basically the difference in the race, I think. Those reds, he hits basically everyone gets one, and like Drew could have actually helped everyone else out by not throwing away his blocker at Dan. Dan kind of takes the worst of that. He gets the red that Drew probably should have held as blocker, and then he gets another one from Beck because Beck didn't have to waste. He had more to fire on Dan. So interesting here play here is that he gets trip shrooms, and what he could do is he could choose to hold these until after the crossing. Cutting right here with 3 shrooms is not as effective. It doesn't save as much time as crossing is using it to them to cross the sand after the second crossing. He saves a little bit of time here by going right, but he doesn't. He actually could save more time by holding these. So like the trade off here is that he's gonna get another item, but not save as much time. But it's gonna end up being a first place item more than likely because Jim's tumbling right here out in front of them. Although his Jim's pretty far out, so maybe it ends up being. That's right. Yeah, they get to the items at the same time. So, yeah, I think, yeah. Let's see. So yeah, he. All right. Yeah, so he gets first place items. He kind of he has an issue with the train here. He goes way out to the right. I think he has to there. He had too much speed. But yeah, so he actually ends up getting second place items here. So, yeah, it ends up working out. Because Jim gets second place items too. I think, right? Yeah, they both get second place items. And yes, Jim with the reds and Beck with the reds, Jim with the shrooms. Little theme on lap 3. So interestingly, yeah, Dan with the shock dodge. Drew passing Beck here for 4th. Let's see what happens. So actually kind of a good play there by Beck. He picks up a blue shell, which is actually like probably the worst case scenario for him because it's completely ineffective against Dan. Dan's going to be across the line by the time the blue can possibly get there. The problem with the blue is that it only locks on player 1. It doesn't lock on player 2 or 3. So it's actually worse than a red in this scenario. So actually the only chance that Beck has of passing Drew is and he makes that like that decision rather quickly here. He gets it like right here. So the only chance that that Beck has of passing Drew is by hitting with the blue or out racing him. Like that's the only thing he can do really. And Drew gets his red, which yeah, we'll get to that when we look at Drew. So, kind of a heads-up play by Beck, hitting Drew with this blue shell. Yeah, good play. All right. So let's go back and look at Drew. Yeah, so Drew misses the start boost here. It's not terrible. This is a pretty decent track to sandbag on. He does a good job of like really kind of make sure he lines up those items and getting 4th place here. So yeah, this is again. I feel like this is just a spam. I don't love this play. He could double up on 4th place items. He has a red out in front of him, so yeah. Definitely, I think a misplay here. Yeah, let's see. I guess so. He's in. Yeah, the red's in second. Dan's got the red in second place. Yeah, I feel like he just really needs to be more judicious with these power item plays. But yeah, it was really quick usage there. I'm gonna call it a spam. Yeah. So yeah, Dan does a good job of actually. So he actually Dan does a really good job here of firing the red at Drew to keep him kind of like minimizing his escapability here. He's still going to get out in front, but Dan with the heads up play there with the red, hitting Drew. And then Drew has actually two shots at Jimbo. He actually tries to go for him, but he misses him. But it was a good attempt. A little bit interesting driving there from Drew. Like he's not sliding. Like he should be sliding, like releasing an MT into the sand here. I'm not really sure what he's doing. He's like slowing down, and like maybe he's almost like maybe he's trying to go for second place items, but he's so far ahead of Drew. Like I'm not sure what the slowdown's for. And he gets again. I feel like this is a little bit of like a spammy play. Like with that boo, you're probably looking for Red's behind or a star or Bolt. Trip shrooms are okay here. They'll get you across this path, but and it does end up blocking Beck from fourth place items, but I still feel like this is probably a little bit early to play this boo. I definitely would be waiting to see what Jimbo gets. Like if Jimbo gets trip reds or something behind, then it's a clear misplay. If his intention here is to like block Beck from getting items, he still has a little bit of a chance, a little bit of a window. But at the minimum, I think I'm definitely just waiting to see what like if Beck's cycling for items, which looks like he's doing. Before I fire these, I think I'm waiting to see what Jim gets, what Dan gets, what Beck gets, and using it then if something good comes up. But yeah, I feel like it's a little bit spammy here. And so Dan gets a blue, and now he has no as long as Dan holds this blue until Drew's ghost wears off, Drew's going to be exposed to this blue now. So he gets the shrooms to get across. He uses one basically. You got one shroom out of that boo. The other shroom is basically didn't. So here's one other thing I don't love about this. So let's look at this from like a front runner's perspective. He's in first place. He's getting an item. He gets a green, and he's got a blue behind him. Like Dan's already got the blue out, so he's obviously he's in the crosshairs of the blue. Dan hasn't launched it yet, but what I dislike about pulling out this blocker now is that if Jim gets trip reds, or if Dan fires the blue, now this blocker is basically let's take it. There's two scenarios. If Dan fires the blue, and nothing else happens, it's going to take out your blocker. I mean, you have to fire it before the blue gets there, which limits your ability to use it. You can still try to snipe someone, but it limits you. It constrains you. If, for example, Jim gets trip red, the other scenario, which I don't like pulling out this blocker early, is that if Jim gets trip reds, Jim has to be it increases the constraints on his awareness or the requirements of his awareness. You can sometimes lure someone behind you who has trip reds to fire 2, even though you're not pulling out your blocker yet. So you can sometimes avoid getting hit by 2 reds or 3 or something. At 2, I guess, by not pulling out your blocker and trying to get the person behind you to fire 2 reds. And then if they fire 2, you're just going to take those hits and then pull out your blocker to avoid the third, if that makes sense. So those are 2 scenarios where Drew, by pulling out his blocker now, he's basically taking those potential plays away from himself. So yeah, I keep that blocker in inventory longer. Obviously, Jim doesn't get reds. Dan fires the blue. So actually, Drew he does actually do a good job of getting rid of this blocker, firing it backwards to try to snipe Jim before the blue gets home, and he actually ends up hitting him. So it's a pretty good attempt. I just feel like if I'm Drew there, I probably hold that blocker and then wait for the blue to hit me and then pull it out after I get hit. Yeah, so yeah, he could have a green still at this point. Okay, so he gets a second place star. It's that's actually like the best case scenario I think for second place. Um, but he fires it. He fires it kind of early here. So I feel like he needs to when he gets these items, both stars, boos. I think he just needs to not be so trigger happy, and be a little bit more strategic in the usage of these things. So a couple things here. So with stars, you can negate lightnings, you can negate reds, other things like that. Um, he or you can use it as obviously you can also use it for speed. So you get the immunity effects, but you also get the speed effect. And for the speed effect, if you're trying to maximize that by firing it early here, he's gonna lose speed. He's not gonna be able to cut all of the sand area after the second crossing. So to maximize your star speed advantage, if you're just trying to maximize that piece of it, basically what you want to be doing here is building up a slide and then to build up an MT because again, MT speed and star speed stack. So build up an MT here, release it right at the crossing, so to the right here, release it right about here, and then fire your star. Now you're cutting across all of this. Yeah, go ahead and go and pick up this item here, and then now start. So again, he's kind of like, I don't know why he's not. He should have started this slide way back before the crossing. Basically, build up another slide, release the MT into this grass into the sand area, and kind of stay more to the left and kind of hug that track a little more. So he's still got star speed here because it lasts a little bit past the animation, but he's losing his boost right about here. So if he had waited to hit that star right before entering the sand, he would have been able to get all the way across this sand area as well. So he's got to now drive through the sand slowly, and actually Beck passes him or Dan passes him. So and Jimba. So I guess he ends up getting a third place item because of that. But I feel like if he's just trying to maximize his speed there, he needs to wait on that star fire. So or firing that star. All right, so he's got a single banana. Jim and Dan in front with really nothing because they both had stars, and then Beck behind, about to get an item, and he gets a single red, which is not a great pickup in third. Yeah. Again, goes back to this play where he I still feel like he is just rushing all these item plays where he fires this red basically right when Beck's pulling out his reds. So that goes back to actually let's see. Yeah, he has two blockers here. So what he could do is he could yeah, I feel like he drops this banana here, which is sort of like a throwaway. Yeah, that really is doing nothing there. And he fires his red. He basically has two blockers. Now he has trip reds behind him. Yeah, that's just not a great play. So the red gets home on Dan. But now he's basically. I mean, if Beck was if Beck was targeting him, Beck could have hit him twice. Yeah, he gets once here. Beck could hit him again. Maybe not. I don't know. He was kind of still tumbling, so. But yeah. All right, he picks up third place items. What does he do? Okay, so Dan misses items. So that's nice for him. Gets trip green. So yeah, he's actually gotten pretty bad luck here. The last two items, he's got a single red and trip greens, which in third place is not great. That's not a great pickup. So a little bit unlucky. But yeah, nothing super eventful here. What he could have maybe done here a little bit is he's got Dan right behind him, and Dan's gonna pick up a fourth place item. What you can do like a little bit of a mind game here with the item blocks. And so he's just kind of driving on a very predictable straight line, which is good for ensuring that you get items. This item set's pretty dense, like pretty. All the blocks are like packed together, so it's pretty hard to miss these blocks. So what Drew could do here as a little bit more of an advanced tactic is he could kind of line up to the right. He's kind of lining up to the middle, but if he sets up where he's more lined to the right, Dan will sort of by default. If Dan's watching, Dan will line up to the left because he sees Drew going to the right, and Drew could kind of at the last minute hop to the left and kind of fake Dan out and try to take away his items. And that would actually be a really important play because this is like these items right here can like make or break the race. Like if you get a bolt or a star here, and especially with everyone so close, Drew could have basically could like prevent Dan from having a chance at like winning the race or passing him. So it's not. I mean, that's more of like that's a pretty advanced play, but it's not really that hard to pull off. So if I'm Drew, if I'm trying to look to just like take it up to the next level, I probably try to like maybe play some mind games with Dan and try to like take away his do a little last minute switch on the item blocks and try to get him caught so that he's not getting an item block. So yeah, Dan, he heads to the left. I think if Drew does that, I think Dan doesn't get the item block there. So Drew, he gets. So here's the other thing. I think if I'm Drew, I think probably what I'm doing is I think I'm just tossing away these greens. I think I'm throwing them probably like right here, just tossing them into the train tracks or tossing them out to the right. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Like maybe I'd wait to see what Dan gets. But the problem, so here's the kind of the tricky part of this is that with the three greens, he has to now hit Z 4 times basically to trigger his item, and to use it, or 5 times actually. No, 4 times. So the benefit, I guess the pro to keeping this is that if Dan gets trip reds or something, now he's holding onto his blockers. So I think you have to wait until Dan gets his item. But the downside is that if you get, so Dan's gonna get a star and Drew's gonna get a bolt. If Drew races Dan to use his bolt before Dan gets a star, now basically Dan's dead. Dan can't use a star. Dan can't go across the sand, and Drew basically blocks Dan until like Dan will use the star. He can use the star, but not until after he exits the sand. So it's kind of a tough decision to know what to do here to toss away these greens, because basically I think let's look at the percentages. So in 4th place, the chance of getting 3 red shells is 20%. The chance of getting a star is 20%. So actually, it's really it's a toss up. It's a true coin flip here. Yeah. So really, I think I'm not sure what the play is, but the other aspect of this is if he gets a star, he gets more of a like he could get a star instead of a bolt or something. By having to throw away his greens, he's losing more of a chance of cutting more of the grass with the sand with the star speed. So yeah, I probably throw the greens away, and then if Dan gets the 20% trip reds, then just GG. But yeah, hard to know what to do. I think I probably would just throw them away, but it's easy to know in hindsight. But yeah. So Dan has the star here, and Drew gets a bolt. I don't. So here's the problem: is that he has to try to make a decision now. Like, will Dan's star? How far will Dan's star take him to the end? Will he get clear enough or will Drew have enough time to wait for Dan's star to end to bolt him and still get like catch up with him before Dan finishes? Um, the other thing is that he has this red, so Beck throws the red, which is going for Jim. So if he fires his bolt now, and it could cancel the red, which it does. So I think you just wait. I think you have to wait, maybe, and if nothing else, Dan, maybe just let Dan go. He has the star, and then get the third place items so get the bolt, hold the bolt, get third place items, and then you're probably likely passing Jim and Beck, with like with the double up. So the other problem here is he throws his greens away, but he throws them into the wall. If he just fires them straight right now, they're gone. Like there's no risk. But he starts sliding and he throws them away, and then they come back and they hit him. Like that's not a great play. If you're gonna throw them away, just throw them out to the right and just throw them away, like completely away from you. So let's see where Dan's star ends. Let's see. Dan's star ends right about here. So Drew, he still could have hit Dan. I still think there was a chance that if he waits, I think he needs to wait there, on that shroom, on that bolt, because he would be, assuming he doesn't hit himself with reds with his own greens. He would be firing. He'd be up right around where Beck is, probably maybe a little bit past him. Dan would now be small. He would be getting a third place item, and I think he has probably a chance of passing both Jim and Dan with his third place items. So what does he get here? Let's see what he gets. Single red. So not a great outcome for third place items, but definitely I think probably enough to hit Jim at least. So yeah, I think a pretty big misplay with firing his greens off there and not waiting on his bolt. And then Beck, kind of unfortunate for Drew here that Beck was like perfectly lined up behind him with his blue. I think if Beck is literally in the perfect spot with his blue here, and it catches him actually like right on the edge, around this, like barely clips him actually. The blues can kind of come out a little bit wonky. Beck was, I think, Drew was kind of drifting left there. Not drifting, but kind of just his line was drifting left. So yeah, kind of unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, I think Drew had a chance there of like winning the race actually. He had a tough decision with the greens, but then he misplays his bolt and his greens there. Even after he makes that decision. So yeah, I think he leaves points. Definitely, he's leaving points on the table. All right, let's finish up with Dan. All right, so you see Dan. So Dan's in first, so he's kind of got this. He can be aggressive here and try to take out the inside items. The other thing that you can do, kind of what I was talking about with Drew there in the last lap, is he could try to like slide out to the right and try to take out like the middle items or something to try to, if he thinks if the thought process is he's going inside, other people going wide, he could try to like do a little fake out there and go wide and try to prevent people from getting items. He actually does it for Jim. He clears out 2 sets there, I think, or 2 item blocks. Well, he actually doesn't go. Yeah, he sort of does it. He sort of kind of takes Jimbo's line there. Jimbo probably should have done a better job. Like I said, he should have done a better job of going out further to the right. So let's see, what does he get? So Dan, he lets Jimbo get in front. He get kind of a strange sandbag. He jumps out to the left. I think that was intentional. It looks like intentional. So he gets a second place item. Good job of not like reflex spamming off the bolt. Sometimes people will do that. Well, as soon as they get bolted, they kind of reflex spam their red or their reds. And again, actually a really good job there of keeping Drew in check. So he actually he doesn't want to fire that red while he's pointed to the right, because the reds kind of take a little bit of time to kind of course correct back to the middle of the track or whoever that they're locking onto. shouldn't say middle of the track, but if he fired that red while he's pointing right, it could actually end up hitting that fence. So actually, he does a good job of waiting until Drew passes him, but also waiting to be pointed back towards the left, because shells generally will fire in the direction you're pointing the stick, essentially. So he does a really good job of getting that shell on track quickly to hit Drew and kind of keep him in check there. All right. So he sees so basically Drew kind of does him a solid here. He sees the Drew using the boo. He can be the other thing with the boo is that you can by holding it, you can kind of force people in third and fourth place to spam their items and be less like tactical with how they're going to use those items. So that's another kind of thing, another nuance with using like holding that boo, you can basically like spook people into like using their items like incorrectly, essentially. So now Dan doesn't have to worry about it. He's like, Drew used the boo. All he really has to do is kind of worry about what Beck gets behind him, and actually now he doesn't even have to worry about that because Beck has to sit those items out. So hitting the banana there is not a big deal. It's like 5/10, something like that. So actually he does a good job here of waiting until Drew's boo runs out before he fires off this blue. The other thing he does I like about this play is sometimes the boos kind of take a weird path, and I don't like firing them on turns like this because sometimes they can come back. So blues, what they'll do is they there's like a little period where they like jump off to whatever direction you're aiming, and then they'll like course correct way, like they'll kind of snap back to the middle of the track, and when you fire it on a turn, there's an outside chance that you can like hit yourself with that snap back to the middle. So I like waiting to get like on a straight before firing off that boo. I mean that blue, I should say. So the other thing he could try to do is he could try to maybe catch up to Jimbo a little bit and then try to like get Jimbo, like line Jimbo up with the blue, kind of like what Beck did to Drew at the very end of the race. But actually, it's not terrible here because this little like chicane area is sometimes he almost hits Jimbo with the blue here. It doesn't miss him by much. Yeah, kind of goes inside of Jim there. All right, so the other thing, so he gets this golden shroom. Yeah, so I think I'd probably do the same thing that he does here. Is I think you're gonna have to sit these items out. Let me double check on this. I'm pretty sure. Like, so if he had fired that blue earlier and was able to like get these golden, like he can't get the golden shroom off because he's already driven this far, right? So let me see. Let me just double check my notes here. Calamari Desert. This is the third set of items. So actually, what he could do here is it's tough because I know what he was doing with the blue. Like the blue kind of pinched him off a little bit. But let's just say he was trying to like trying to minimize the chance of missing an item block. He could have fired this golden shroom immediately and just stayed on the track and still gotten the next set of items because the item blocks are so spaced out on this track. He'd have to ease off on the shroom, but he could have actually not skipped there. He could have actually gotten the first set of item blocks on lap 3 or lap 2. But because he was kind of making sure the blue was not going to hit him and all this other stuff, he at that point he doesn't really have any. What am I trying to say? He has no choice. He basically either has to completely kill this golden shroom and not use it at all, or he. I kind of like. So I think this is the right play. He maybe could have waited a little bit longer to kind of cut, like maybe like right here, and then maybe he could have cut more of the second sand off after this first set of tracks. So he probably could have actually used that a little bit more effectively, but I mean I can't really nitpick too much. Um, so Drew passes him with the star. He's gonna get second place items. He's got Jim behind him, but kind of far with no items, and that's about it. So okay, so a good pickup here. Second place Trip Shrooms here is a pretty good pickup. Star probably be the only thing that's better. Maybe Trip Reds to keep Drew in check, but yeah. So Drew's Star's ending here, and then Dan's gonna pass him with the Shrooms. So that's the Trip Shrooms there is second place is a pretty good pickup. So again, actually, I'm not crazy about. Well, actually, let's see. Yeah, so he picks up the blocker, but yeah, Jim misses items. So it's actually pulling it out there is okay. The only problem now, though, is that Jim's still got star, so he basically loses his blocker here by Jim taking out with the star. So I probably would have held it. Kind of a tough call, but actually, the thing is, okay. So the thing is, actually, this is why I probably don't pull it out. So there's a chance Jim passes him. He's not sure, but Jim ends up passing him. The thing is, Drew's getting items here. And Beck's about to get items. So this goes back to that thing where if someone gets Trip Reds behind you, you can kind of lure them into firing too. And with Drew's actually, like, with his tendency to kind of spam items, that's actually probably someone where I think that might work on that. So it might work on Drew. So if I'm Dan, I probably just don't. I probably wait till Jim passes me, and I wait to see what kind of items Drew picks up here before I pull off this green. Yeah, so see, actually, Dan, by pulling up that green, and Jim taking out with his star, now he's exposed to Drew's red. So at this point, now you pull it out, and now you're clean. And so, Dan's gonna get hit by Drew's red, and he's gonna get hit by Beck's red here. So, yeah. I'm not sure if he probably couldn't have avoided Beck's red because Beck was going to hit Beck was going to hit Drew anyway. But maybe Dan can get to the second set of items before Beck's shell gets home. I don't know. Probably not. Yeah, I don't think he could have gotten it there in time. But that's kind of another thing, bad miss here. So he stops his slide, which is probably what I would do. That's the correct play to try to line these items up. And he sees Drew going left, so he's like, okay, I'm going right because Drew's going left, but Drew is going like inside left, and Dan kind of overcorrects and he ends up hitting the gap, so he gets a little squirrely. He like goes left right. And he ends up hitting the gap right. A little bit unlucky, but yeah. I think that's a situation where Dan kind of has to know his opponent a little bit more, or a little bit better. Where Drew hasn't shown the tendency yet to like try to like do like fake out like on item block lines and stuff. So if I'm Dan, I probably just stay on course, go for the middle. So that's kind of a big miss there, because fourth place items here, like late on lap 3, are like super critical. Ends up working out okay. He probably could have doubled up though. He probably could have gotten 2 fourth place items, using them both right here. But he gets the star. So and then he ends up Drew kind of does him a solid here, with the giving Dan the shock dodge. So yeah, kind of a big miss on the fourth place items, but it ends up working out just mainly because of how Drew played his bolt. All right. So yeah, let's just go back and watch this in real time. I think if I'm Drew, the thing I'm working on the most is not trying not to reflex fire those big items, boos, bolts, stars. Like I think Drew got really pretty decent item luck here. He got a bolt, he got a boo, he gets another bolt later. Like he gets, uh, yeah. But he all in all pretty much all of those cases he's not like tactically using these items. He's kind of just firing them off immediately. Yeah, another kind of early usage on that star. So yeah, Drew gets he gets two bolts, a boo, and a star, like a second place star. It's like typically that's enough to win a race. I think. Lots of stars though. You get two, so three. Everyone basically got a star, and actually Beck got a star too. So it's like everyone got a star on that lap. Good red usage by Beck here. Uh, and basically the main factor in this outcome is the Dan Star and Drew's bolt usage here. Like Jimbo and Beck are kind of just caught in the crossfire. They're just passive actors here. All right, well, I think I'm gonna call it for today, and next time maybe try to get to the next two tracks. All right, thanks for watching.